Hello everyone, how are you doing? In this lesson we are going to see how to create and apply materials to the objects. So I have here the file with the airplane we finished modeling in the last lessons, and I'm going to create and apply materials using this tab of the Properties editor right here, this one with this red ball icon. If you want, you can even click on this division line and drag to make this column a bit larger. Very well. For us to create a new material to the scene, we are going to click on this new button right here. The idea is that we do that when we have the object in which we want to add the material already selected. This way, the material that we create will be already assigned to the object. So I will make sure the object is selected and I'm going to click on this new button. If we want now, we can name the material by clicking on this field here, and for this example I'm going to create a blue material, so I will rename it as blue. When we do this, we can see that the name also changes in this icon up here. This is the slots window, and I'm going to talk about it in a few moments. If we have the material selected and take a look down here, we will see several parameters that we can edit to change the look of the material. In this crash course, we are just going to talk about the base color of the material, that is the color itself. So, if we click on this field here, besides the name, where we can see this color wheel, where we can choose the hue of the color and the saturation, and this column here in the right, where we can choose the darkness of the color. But as we can see right now, what's happening is that we are changing the color of the material here in the properties of the material. We can see the color here in this icon, but if we take a look in the object here in the 3D view, we can see that the object is not properly displaying the material. And this is happening because the 3D view of Blender have 4 different visualization modes that we can choose in the upper right corner of the 3D view in these 4 buttons over here. This first button here activates the wireframe mode that displays the edges of the object without showing the faces. The second buttons display the object in the solid mode, that is the lightest mode to see the object, and that's why we use this mode to model the object. And then we have these last 2 modes, that is the look dev mode or the material preview, this one here, where we can properly see the material applied to the object, and the last one is the render preview, that I'm going to talk a bit more in a future lesson, okay? So that we can see the material in the 3D view, we must use, for now, the material preview mode in this button here. So we can see that when we have the look dev or material preview mode active, any change we do in the material here in the properties editor, we will see in real time happening in the 3D view. So if we change the color, we can see that the color also changes in the 3D view. So for this project, I'm going to choose a dark shade of blue, but you can choose any color you like for your project. Okay, and we can see that the material is properly displayed in the object in the 3D view. And now that we finished creating our first material, we are going to see how we can add different materials to a single object. Okay? So let's say now that I want to create another material to add in different polygons of this object. How we can do that in Blender? Well, when we are in the Material tab of the Properties editor, we can see this window here that enables us to create multiple materials for a single object. And these materials are listed here in this window, and we can create a new slot to put a new material by clicking on this plus icon here in the right side of the window. When we do this, Blender creates a new slot so that we can add a new material. it does not create the material itself, okay? So if we click in the material, we will see down here the properties of the material. And if I click on this empty slot, we will see nothing because we didn't add any material to this slot yet. But if I have this slot active and click on this new button down here, we will create a new material to this slot. We can now rename this material the way we want, and I'm going to name it as yellow because this material will be yellow. And I'm going to change the color here in the base color parameter. So I will choose here a nice shade of yellow. Okay. We can see that the icon here is already yellow. But now we have to add this material to the parts of the object that we want it to be. And how we can do this in Blender? To do this in Blender, we need to enter the edit mode of the objects by going to the interaction mode menu here. And now we need to select the faces in which we want this material to be. Okay, so I'm going to have the yellow material selected here in the right. And then when I have the polygon selected, I will click on the Assign button. So I'm going to start selecting the faces by activating the selection box tool here in the toolbar. And I can click on this icon here, the X-ray button, so that we can see the object in the transparency mode and we can select the components of the other side. For this, it's better that I activate the face selection mode so that I can select the polygons properly. Okay, now I'm going to select the faces in the points of the wings, okay, in the tip of the wings. I'm also going to select the faces in the tip of these back wings, okay, and also I'm going to select these up polygons back here. And when I have all these faces properly selected, I can make sure that the material I want to add is active here in the slots menu, and I'm going to click on the Assign button down here. When I do this, the material that is active is properly assigned to these faces. And now I can repeat this procedure with other materials. So now I want to create a red material to put here in the front part of the airplane. So I can start by clicking on the Add icon here in the right to create a new slot. Okay, this new empty slot. Now I'm going to create a new material by clicking on the New button, and I'm going to rename it as Red. So I'm going to rename it as Red here. Now I can set the color here in the base color parameter. I'm going to choose here a nice shade of red. And to assign this material to the polygons that I want, I need to select these polygons. So I can use the select box tool to select all these front faces here. And now I just have to make sure that the red material is active here. And I'm going to click on Assign. Okay? If by chance you have a different material assigned to a polygon that you did not intend to, you just have to click the polygon and assign the material that you want to be there. Okay, so for this example, I'm going to assign the blue material again to that polygon. And to finish now, I'm going to create the material to the cabin, to this glass of the cabin of the airplane. And I'm going to create a dark gray material to put here. Okay, so I can click on this Add icon to create a new slot. I'm going to click on the New button to create a new material, and I'm going to rename this material as Gray. Okay, now I can change the color here in the base color parameter to a dark gray. Just move this down here in this column. Now I will select the polygons corresponding to the cabin. I can select this loop with the Alt key, and then with the Shift key pressed, I can select these faces up here. Okay? I can leave the transparency mode now. And to assign the material to these polygons, I just have to make sure it is selected here in the window and click on the Assign button down here. Okay? If we leave the edit mode now, we can see that all the materials are properly added to the object. Now that the materials of the airplane are complete, we can create materials to the helix. And if we want, we can create new materials to this object, or we could select the existing materials that we already created and apply it to this object. As we can see here in the Properties editor, if I have an object with no material applied and have the Material tab selected, we will see no material in this window. If I select an object with materials, we will see the materials there. If I select the helix now and take a look at this menu here, we can see all the materials that we have already created to the scene. And here we will see that if we click on any of these materials, we will see that this material will be applied to the entire object. So for this case, I'm going to select first the gray material so that it is applied to the entire object. But I also want to add the yellow material to the tips of the helix. Okay? So we have already seen that to do this, we need to create a new slot so that the object can have multiple materials. And in this new slot, we could choose an existing material or create a new material to apply to the polygons that we want. For this case, I'm going to use the same yellow that I already used for the tips of the wings. So with this material slot selected, I'm going to select the yellow material here. And now, so that I can apply it properly to the polygons of the tips of the helix, I'm going to make sure that the helix is selected, and I'm going to activate the edit mode up here. Okay? Now I will activate the X-ray mode, and with the selection box tool, I will select the polygons of the tips of the wings of the helix. Okay? And now, if I make sure that the yellow slot is selected, active, I can click on the Assign button to assign this material to those faces. Now I can add this red material that I have already created for the airplane. I'm going to add it to the point of the helix. To select it, I can start by selecting this face here, and I can expand this selection by using the Ctrl+ key, but it have to be the plus key of the numeric keypad, okay? So if you have Ctrl+, you expand the selection. If you do not have the numeric keypad, you can go to the Select menu and click on Select More Less and click on More. This way it will expand the selection. But if you have the numeric keypad, you can just click Ctrl+ to expand the selection. Of course that, if you prefer, you can also select these faces using the Select Box window normally, okay? Now we can add a new slot here in the Material tab of the Properties editor, and with this slot selected, we can activate the red material right here. And if we click Assign, as the faces were selected, this material will be assigned to these faces. We can now disable the X-ray mode and leave the edit mode of the object so that we can see all the materials properly assigned to the project. Okay? This way we finish the material creation lesson. And in the next lesson, we are going to see how to parent this helix to the airplane, okay, to the other object, so that when we move one of the objects, when we move the airplane, the helix follows it. So thank you for watching, and I see you on the next lesson.